Good morning, everybody. Let's take a glance at the Mediterranean as well. Very interesting previous speeches, I should say. I'm here to talk about our own experience, our own story. The main subject of today's presentation is sustainable tourism mobility as a driver of economic growth. We are still growing as a tourist destination in this respect. Limassol, a couple of decades ago, was a sleepy fishing village. Okay, very slow pace, very relaxing. The British liked it for their holidays because it used to be a British colony. So we had lots of British holiday makers that preferred the area. And then progress and development started, and it grew into an international business center, attracting business people from all over the world. Europe, Russia, a lot of German shipping companies have established their headquarters in Limassol, in small Limassol. Cosmopolitan tourist destination. We have a number of beach hotels, brands like Le Méridien, Four Seasons, Crown Plaza, right on the beach, beautiful beaches, and as an industrial hub as well. Throughout the years, Limassol has become a major maritime center, the third in the world. Cyprus is the third largest fleet in the world, and I mean, we are so small, you literally need a magnifying glass to see the island on the map. It's the third largest in the Mediterranean and the 10th largest in the world, excuse me. And all this growth and buildings and businesses and services has led us to get carried away and think of the financial opportunities and education and providing better services. And we didn't pay enough attention on sustainability. And that nearly cost us, especially in the tourist industry. Now, the good thing is that people of Limassol came together. We had a number of esteemed business people that came together and formed a company called Limassol Branding Project. They have tried to rediscover the DNA of this place and rebrand it in the world, because it was completely changing. This effort was supported by the Limassol Tourist Board, which took a step back to consider sustainability and actually make a SWOT analysis and think of the next steps on this. This is one of our newest projects, a 350 million euro project in Limassol. It's the new marina. Let me just make a note that in 2013, March 2013, we had the first deposits haircut in Cyprus, which was a shock, not just to Cyprus and all the business people that had invested money in Cyprus, but internationally. It was the first time deposits were ever suffering a haircut. And we were very worried about what's going to happen. You know, we were depending on international investments to grow, to keep growing. Still, the marina finished. After the haircut, we had investors that stayed there and made new investments and new plan, and they are still doing so. So we went through the turbulence of 2013 and has successfully survived. Now, as I said, all this makes you think of the need to be sustainable, to cater not just for the tourists that come here right now and for the host community, Limassol itself, the people of Limassol, but also for the future tourists, to make sure that the environment is not destroyed, the air is clean, there are no traffic jams, to maintain a good quality of life for the people that live there. So caring for the future, protecting the future became one of our priorities. Now, we all know that fuel-based urban motorized transport modes and systems are contributing to environmental pollution, not just CO2, but noise pollution, land take for parking, congestions, increased travel time, accidents, limitation of access to places of interest. If it's 10 kilometers away and it takes you 40 minutes to get there, then your experience is spoiled. Decrease in quality of life and amenity values for inhabitants, decreased attractiveness for tourists in the long run, reduced livability of cities and hindered cities' potential to reach environmental goals and become better in this respect. Now, it's not just a philosophical issue or a general issue. This concerns each and every business in Limassol. So what are the consequences for these businesses? If the employees have a certain cost to travel in their own car and pay for parking to go to work, that cost is part of the amount they receive in their payment. So we have high staff costs, expensive and complex delivery systems. Existing transport systems in cities negatively influence businesses and their activities, and there are a number of other negative implications we're going to see later on. Now, sustainability is becoming an opportunity for destinations. We know that 30%, more than 30% of Germans appreciate sustainability when they are choosing their holiday destination. That can be a real opportunity for destinations to work on, improve, and develop it as a unique selling point. We have a long way to get there, but we are doing well. So the destination becomes more attractive when it's sustainable. The truth about Limassol was that about 5 years ago, before sustainability in mobility was an issue, we were talking about a place where everybody owned a car. You are 18, you got your car. Nobody was using the public transport system. Bicycle was just for kids. You know, nobody was riding a bicycle. It was really far from being sustainable in the sector of mobility. What we did was we searched for European funding in this field. And knowing that we had all this financial turbulence in Cyprus in the last few years, we took it for granted that we wouldn't have grants to use in this sector. But we managed to get European funding, and I must say that in 3 years' time, we have had a tremendous success. Now, if you walk in Limassol, you will see hundreds of bicycles coming and going. The excuse was always the weather. It's very hot, you know, Mediterranean weather. So the excuse was, I can't get my bicycle, then I sweat, I cannot go to the office like this. There was always an excuse. Now it's a trend. It's very fashionable to ride your bicycle. You can see cars having the bike ramps at the back. Everybody's interested in cycling. Walking, hiking is increasingly attractive to locals and tourists. And the public transport system is improving and is, for the first time in 50 years, it's interesting for people to use it, to go shopping, to go to work, for the students to go to school, etc. Now, what we have discovered in our experience is that when the planning for mobility solutions is made, nobody considers the tourist. They all think of the inhabitants, how they can get to the hospital using the bus, how they can get to schools, to the shopping areas. Nobody thinks of connecting the tourist area with places of interest, connecting the tourist area with the old town. So that's something we had to visit for the first time. We had to go and find every authority and make them think of tourists as well and include them in their planning. Many tourist regions face seasonal peaks in demand for transport services. Even though we have mild weather 12 months a year, we can say that the high season is May to end of October. And that's when we have more traffic congestions, more cars in the streets because of the rented cars, etc. Now, after our Seymour experience, Seymour is the European project we became partners of and made it possible for us to carry out a number of measures and see very good results. One of the outputs was to create information about mobility options. So we've made our lobbying and we've tried to convince everybody to improve the services. Then we had to inform tourists especially. So we created a mobility guide explaining how to get to a museum using the bus, how to get to a place of interest using the bicycle, how to combine all these modes, and how to use some of these to enrich your experience, like following a cycling route and get out of the route to visit an ancient church, for example. We have tried to make it not only a mobility experience, but a tourist experience as well, based on these sustainable mobility modes. Videos, applications, everything became useful in making people aware of the available sustainable mobility modes. Communication and awareness campaigns. Instead of advertising, we have used role models, well-known artists, models, actors, to promote the use of the bus. I use the bus to get to the theater. That was the idea. Rather than advertising, it's good to use the bus because you save money, etc. So this worked really well and created an interest for the general public, the local public especially. Data collection among tourists. This is very important to know where you are and how you can become better, because you cannot realize the tourist experience and the barriers they face unless you talk to them. Completion of infrastructure gaps. We had to complete cycling paths, create new ones, create cycling lanes, walking paths, invest in infrastructure. Tourism and mobility product development. We created a program called Experience Limassol. The idea was to have an itinerary of what to do every day at very low cost using the sustainable mobility modes. So you could on Monday plan a visit to a nearby village using the rural bus for €3 to come and go from the tourist area. So that was an option. Or you could join an excursion, a bicycle excursion with a guide for €45, including bike, helmet, and guide, to take a 6-hour excursion and go and visit a number of sites in the area. So we made this itinerary to help people put these modes into their planning and enrich their holiday, spending very few euros, enrich their holiday and leave the place with the most favorable experiences to take with them. Establishment of cooperation between the transport and tourist sectors. Two very different sectors. There was no communication between them at all. It was a real challenge to get them to exchange communication. For the transport companies, it helped them make their service better. Therefore, it helped them increase their profits because the service was more user-friendly, more people were using it. That increased their business, and they were very happy. It pleased the hoteliers and everybody in the tourist industry because it provided a very economic option to their tourists. So instead of traveling from the airport to the hotel, and then when you leave back for a total of €120, you could pay €18 for both routes and take the bus, the airport shuttle. This made the hoteliers happy because the total cost of the holiday was going down. Plus, people that wanted to spend that amount of money in their holidays could spend it to make something really interesting, to try a new activity or enjoy something, a luxurious dinner or spa treatment, you know? So they could live happier with the use of these services. Cooperation with hotels, tourist attractions, and transport companies was essential. Web travel planners tailored to leisure trips were made. Applications were available for people to plan their trip, their timing, their cost, to help them make the decision to use these modes. Audio guide apps became available to make bus routes more interesting. As I said, the buses were not so interesting for people to use. Actually, they were a bit disappointing because nobody was interested, they were never on time, you were waiting for the bus, not knowing when the bus is coming. It was like a forgotten service sponsored by the government to be there. But now that is changing. The one bus route that travels in the tourist area back and forth is moving more than 1 million tourists, noting that we have around 300,000 tourists, which is a small number. So at least 3 times that bus route is used by each traveler on average. Now, throughout our experience, we have found out that having integrated tourist and mobility information is essential. And it's very high in demand as well. I must say that the Sustainable Mobility Guide we have produced, both the printed and electronic version, were the top requested material we had as a tourist board. Not even the general tourist guide was so popular as this Sustainable Mobility Guide, because it was really practical and everybody was interested to have one with them. Establishing cooperation between tourism and mobility sectors, it takes a lot of time, not a lot of money. It's a big challenge to get 2 different sectors to start working with each other, but once it's achieved, and it took me a year to get there, once it's achieved, it's a very big thing. You can make wonderful progress if you have both sectors willingly work together towards the same aim. So win-win situations are the key to establish solid and long-lasting partnerships. One of our good business case examples was we used to have the airport shuttle starting from a bus stop in the city, too far away from the tourist area. You had to take a taxi for about 20 euro to get to the bus stop, so it didn't worth it. And we have convinced that private company to make a stop in the tourist area. We have contacted the local authorities, took the necessary license from the Ministry of Communications and Works. We provided the shelter for the bus stop. We made it easy for them. So the bus that leaves the city makes a stop in the tourist area and goes to the airport. No major changes. I think it's a 5-minute longer route because of that stop. This company was amazed with the increase in the number of passengers they are moving. And this very decision, this very measure made the company profitable. So not only they have decided to maintain the service, but they have decided to establish a similar service for the second airport. So if something is sustainable, it's easy to be maintained and to be strengthened in the future in order to have an improved solution. Tourist travel habits can act as an example to local populations. We always had tourists from Germany and from Scandinavian countries that were very interested in cycling, but they were like, small numbers. Now all this trend, all this fashion took with it the locals as well, and the tourists are encouraged to to get into the game once again, and the service companies are becoming better and better because they have a lot of demand. It's the loss of the market. So everything is helping in a circle of providing better sustainable solutions. Many best practices are transferable, and we make it a point to invite the other regions in Cyprus to share our experiences with them and encourage them to adopt some of the measures in their own areas. I would like to thank you very much for your attention. I'll give the